I didn't know how it was exactly in other countries, but in Moldova, and by extension Russia and Ukraine I suppose, since that's where all gaming-related reading material would come from, magazines weren't really a widespread thing until the very late 90s. Before they became popular, we had encyclopedias. Thick, hardcover books or medium-sized paper cover ones that would hold information about tons of games that exist somewhere out there. Depending on the size of the book, between 20 and 50 I'd say, sometimes a bit more. And you'd be lucky if an edition would have pages with expensive glossy paper that had screenshots printed out on them. Mostly it was just text. So I was basically reading about games and imagining them in my head because there was absolutely no other reference. That's the method through which I learned about the Wizardry games. And my imagination was absolutely fascinated by them. However, keep in mind that in the era without the internet, one had to rely purely on finding the physical media somewhere. In Eastern Europe, that meant piracy pretty much, and, well, wizardry wasn't really a thing that was easy to find. Even when the internet did appear in our household in the late 97-ish, 98, finding games there wasn't straightforward. So I still didn't manage to play any of the Wizardry games, and then by the time they would get easier to find, I was enamored by other RPGs, and so the train has passed, and hence I've missed all Wizardry titles. Now, you might have noticed already that I'm using this ranking series not only to talk about stuff I did play, but also to fill in some gaps. Not all of them, of course, since it's impossible to play everything, but at least the things I was interested in. And I was questioning if I'm interested in the Wizardry games enough nowadays to try them out. I thought that, maybe it's not worth it. But then I learned about how the series is still really popular in Japan. I knew before that the games were influential, but after realizing that the West has practically forgotten about this series that has gone on to blossom elsewhere, my curiosity piqued. And now we're talking about the very first Wizardry, a game I've spent 50 hours in, give or take I guess, in the original version for Apple II. Even though Wizardry has had a lot of re-releases and remakes over the years on various consoles, a bunch of them only for the Japanese audience, though with fan translation packs available, and even an actual modern proper remake that has released not too long ago relative to when this is written, I wanted to check the version which has garnered a loyal audience back then. And I have to say, Wizardry is a game about grinding that has engaged me in such ways that pretty much no game about grinding has. On the surface, it's just about traversing the 10 levels of a dungeon while fighting monsters, finding treasures, and sometimes key items to unlock various locations, to eventually defeat the big bad boss. From time to time you get back to the base and upgrade your equipment, identify found items, rest, heal up, restore spell slots for magic users kinda like in D&D, get new gear and go back into the dungeon. It's a very simple progression loop with combat that's not that complicated to figure out, even though setting up your first party and understanding how the game works might take a while. There are several things though that make Wizardry really unique, even in comparison to Ultima. First, while there is no game over state, the characters in your party that you create from scratch have permadeath. If they die, well, they don't necessarily die for good, but if you want them back, you need to bring their bodies to the temple on the surface and pay a very hefty sum to revive them, which ages them several years at least, and yes, age is a mechanic in this game. If age is too big or vitality is too low, resurrection may fail and you may lose the characters forever. But even if you have lost an entire pretty high-level party somewhere deep in the dungeon, their bodies stay there waiting for somebody to pick them up, but are they worth the effort? Maybe it would be more beneficial to just make a new party and focus on it. The stakes are high, especially considering that you can level up and permanently save only when getting out of the dungeon. So you really have to weigh the potential risks and rewards for going deeper in any given expedition. The second aspect that I have enjoyed a lot, which is really imperative to this game's experience as otherwise it would just be about fighting, is actually mapping the dungeons yourself. Because there is no map in this game. Well, there is in some of the re-releases I understand, but not in the original. And it really helps with pacing and exploration. While there are spells showcasing your coordinates or how to get out, this lack of a map is one of those quality of life features that I am fine with not being there in the context of this game. You really get to know the place when you draw and trace your steps with whatever method is more comfortable. Although in terms of quality of life, I wouldn't mind if stuff like spells would actually have to be selected from the menu, because you have to type them in manually every time, so it's best to have the manual ready, especially if you forget the effects of the spell that aren't explained anywhere in-game either. But this game was made in the days when manuals were often a necessary part of the experience due to technical limitations. And, even though there's all these aspects that make Wizardry quite a hardcore and time-consuming experience, there is no bullshit. Well, in the first 4 floors, I'd say. The designs of those levels, the progression of enemies, everything is sensible and it feels great to map the dungeons while prodding whether it's safe to try and move further or it's better to go back and try to survive on the way, and any wipeout feels more like, shit, I've overextended, rather than, oh man, this game is bullshit. However, the other floors, well, they're all over the place. You'll find rooms arbitrarily disabling all magic, big areas full of rotating floors, and you'll be lucky if you're gonna get out, a lot of uninteresting layouts that feel slapped together, especially considering that the enemies and their difficulties have an insane range. You can encounter worthless minions next to someone who can wipe half of your party or more. At the same time, those floors are not that big of a deal because there is an elevator going through them, which makes them fully optional. So you can just spend time grinding next to the elevators and even on the last 10th floor itself until you're ready to slay the final boss, after which your characters will receive a lot of XP but will have all their equipment removed as they become eligible to be transferred to the next game. And I have done that. After so many characters named after people I know in real life and online have perished, eventually I did manage to get a party together that has defeated the evil wizard. Despite my initial feelings regarding the game, in the end, I can't say I enjoyed a lot of the process of getting there. It was more like, well, I've already put in so much time into Wizardry, it will feel like a waste if I don't finish it. So I will place Wizardry 1 between Ultima and Zelda. The first 4 floors of Wizardry are exquisite. It is an upwards ramp to sort of get into it, I admit, but once you do, it's addicting on a level I didn't expect. But also this is why reaching the second half of the game is so viciously disappointing. It's just a grind against haphazard challenges while staying as close to the elevator or a portal back to the city as possible, because if you have to run from some creatures, you want to make sure your entire progress won't get wiped out. I would safely say that if the entire game would have been like the first 4 floors, the position would have been higher. But as it is now, the dungeon crawling aspect is still much better than it is in Ultima, I think, where it's quite clunky, but the first Zelda, even with some of its flaws, is a better overall experience.